After 20 years on the force, I've seen just about everything a cop can see. At least, that's what I used to believe. I've walked into crime scenes where blood painted the walls like murals. I've pulled broken bodies from mangled cars at 3 in the morning. I've stood face to face with people who smiled as I confessed to things too awful to repeat. And through it all, I learned to control my breathing, to slow my heart, to put one foot in front of the other. Because on the force, fear is something you swallow down. But the night I'm about to tell you about, the one night that still clings to my skin like a cold sweat, taught me that there are things you cannot train for, things you cannot explain away with police reports. Evidence of bags or neat little boxers in a case file. After 2 decades in uniform, I've never experienced a night like this, and I hope you never do either. It started with what should have been the simplest call in the book, a noise complaint. The dispatcher's voice crackled over the radio just after 2 a.m., asking if any available unit could check out reports of screaming near the old Miller property, a crumbling house at the edge of town where the forest presses right up against the road. Most nights, complaints like that turn out to be teenagers daring each other to spend a night in a haunted place, or a raccoon knocking over trash cans. I almost waved it off, but something about the way the dispatcher's voice dipped made me pause. They said the caller claimed it didn't sound like a party or an argument. They said the screams didn't sound human. I laughed under my breath at that detail, because what else can you do? And told them I'd take the call. But when I turned off the main road and rolled the cruiser onto that gravel drive, the laughter died fast. The house stood in the moonlight like a skeleton, its windows black sockets, its front porch sagging as if under the weight of unseen bodies. The trees around it bent inward, their branches clawing at the roof like they were trying to hold it down. And the strangest thing wasn't the house, it was the silence. I've worked plenty of rural calls, and you always hear something. Crickets, owls, wind through the leaves. But here, nothing. Just the low hum of my cruiser engine and the crunch of my boots on gravel. The front door was unlocked, hanging slightly ajar. The complaint made sense. Now if any screaming had come from here, it wasn't being muffled by thick walls. It would have carried 4 miles. I pushed the door wider with one hand and called out, "Police department. Anyone home?" My voice sounded small, swallowed instantly by the stale air inside. I stepped into a living room, frozen in time. Furniture draped in sheets, the smell of dust and rot clinging to every surface. It was like no one had lived there for decades, and yet there were fresh footprints in the dirt on the floor, leading deeper inside. I told myself it was probably kids breaking in, kids playing pranks. But the footprints didn't look right. Too thin. I raised my flashlight and followed them down the hall, my free hand hovering near my weapon. Took primera cooled in AT shake the sense that a gun wouldn't be much use against whatever waited here. That's when I heard it, a whisper. Faint. Slipping down the staircase at the end of the hall, every hair on the back of my neck lifted. It wasn't the whisper of a person calling out. It was a whisper curling straight into my head, sliding between my thoughts. My boots creaked on the stairs as I climbed, the beam of my flashlight shaking just enough to betray my nerves. At the top, 4 doors lined the hall, each slightly open. I checked the first. Empty bedroom, sheets over furniture. The second. Same. The third. The smell of mildew, but nothing else. Then I reached the fourth. The whisper rose in volume as I pushed it wide, and in the center of the room stood a cracked mirror. Tayetan, leaning against the wall. My flashlight beam hit the glass, and my stomach lurched. My reflection was there, but it wasn't right. The me in the mirror wasn't holding a flashlight. He wasn't breathing. He was smiling. I froze. I've faced men with knives, guns, even a guy once who swung a chainsaw at me, but nothing made me feel like that reflection did, because when it smiled, the crack in the mirror widened, as if the glass wasn't glass at all but some kind of door. And beneath, I saw pale hands pressing outward. Dozens of them stretching and clawing against the barrier. I stumbled back, slammed the door shut, and raised my weapon, though I knew bullets wouldn't fix whatever I'd just seen. That's when the house shifted. I swear, on everything. I be ever canal when the hallway stretched. Where there had been 4 doors, suddenly there were 6. then 8, then 10. Every door slammed shut in rapid succession, the sound like gunfire echoing down the endless hall. And the whispers, they turned into screams. I ran boots pounding the warped floorboards until a copper temps hit my nose. Blood. I rounded a corner into a dining room I swear hadn't existed before. In the center stood a long table, and around it sat figures, men, women, children, all of them rotting, their flesh hanging loose from bone, their heads turned toward me in unison, jaws opening wide. They screamed without sound, mouths stretched into impossible shapes, air rushing out like a wind that nearly knocked me over. My flashlight died, and in that absolute dark, something moved. Not near me, inside me, like the whisper had crawled from my ears into my bones. The next thing I remember, I was outside, flat on the gravel driveway, staring up at the stars. My cruiser sat exactly where I'd left it, headlights cutting into the trees. My watch said 3:17. I'd gone inside at 2:04. An hour gone. My uniform was soaked with sweat, though the night was cold. I sat up, looking back at the house, but it wasn't there. Nothing but trees. No porch. No windows. No roof. Just empty woods swaying in the wind. I filed the report as abandoned property. No contact. False alarm. What else could I do? Tell them the house swallowed time. Tell them mirrors grin with teeth you don't have. No one would believe me. But I believed, because when I closed my eyes that night, I saw the reflection again, and it wasn't trapped in the mirror anymore. 2 weeks later, the dispatcher logged another call. Same situation. Different house. Reports of screaming. Rookie cop responded. He never came back. They found his cruiser on the road, driver's side door wide open, radio still crackling, but no sign of him. The locals whispered that the woods are cursed, that the old houses appear and disappear, feeding on whoever's unlucky enough to enter. I don't know if that's true, but I do know this. Once you've heard the whisper, it doesn't leave. I still hear it, faint in the back of my skull, especially at night when the house is quiet and the dark feels heavier than it should. Sometimes I catch myself staring into mirrors longer than I should, waiting to see if the reflection will move first. Sometimes it does. After 20 years on the force, I thought I knew horror. I thought blood, violence, and the worst of humanity had nothing left to teach me. But what I experienced that night wasn't human. It wasn't natural. It was something older, deeper, hungrier. Something that wears houses like masks and whispers its way into your thoughts until you can tittle if they were yours anymore. So if you ever hear about a place on the edge of town, a place the locals avoid, a place where screams slip into the night, don't be curious. Don't do what I did, because the house doesn't need your permission. It only needs you to step inside. And once you do, it knows your name, your face, your fear, and it doesn't let go. If you've made it this far into the story, maybe you're brave, or maybe you're reckless. But either way, if you dare, click here for the next nightmare story even darker than this one that follows long after the lights go out. But don't say, I didn't warn you. Some doors should never be opened. Some screams should never be followed. And some stories keep telling themselves even after you stop listening.